Hi folks, this week I promised you a video of the compact track loader arriving. Didn't happen. I misread the original message. It was originally expected to be ready for delivery on Tuesday, not Thursday, but I figured that out on Wednesday. Hadn't heard anything. I put an inquiry in saying what's the current estimate for delivery. I did that yesterday and I've heard nothing back yet. The message hasn't even been read, so who knows. In the meantime, I've found other things to do. I use SketchUp Make for doing 3D drawings quite a bit, so I'll show you what I've been up to with those. Okay, so this is my first drawing. This is actually one that's been going on for quite some time. This is the design for my machinery shed workshop. As you can see, it's pretty damn elaborate. So we're looking at this would be the east end. So you'll see we've got a doorway there which is about 2.5 meters square, so I can get my machine in and out there okay. There's a service pit in there so we can access the underside of machines like Az's truck or my compact track loader or whatever other vehicle we care to drive in there. There will be gratings that go on top of that to prevent that being a hazard when it's not in use. I've got a couple of lock-up cages here which we put the expensive tools and volatiles you don't want people getting their hands on in those. I plan to put a diesel transport / storage tank on top of here using the forklift capability of the compact track loader, and that'll just gravity feed diesel into the compact track loader or Az's truck or the tractor or whatever we need to do, and can lift it down with the forks, put it in the back of Az's truck and take it off to the fuel station to get it refilled. Lots and lots of bracing in this. This is going to be rendered brick walls with lots and lots of steel reinforced beams in there. So diagonals in the corners to provide bracing versus earthquakes. Couple of windows. This is the north side, which will have a veranda in front. That'll all be covered over with galvanised metal sheeting. 3 metre wide veranda there. That will provide shelter for various things that I don't need to put inside. One of the things that may go there is the fish processing station for when we have aquaponics up and running later on. Windows 2 metres long, 1 metre high. They'll probably just have mesh on them, sort of a bird mesh, keep the birds out, but I want to have plenty of flow through ventilation, which is why at the tops up here there will also be flow through ventilation end to end. Given the metal roofing will come out here for 1 metre, that should provide enough cover there so I'm not going to get rain through those. I am looking for getting plenty of light by having polycarbonate sheeting for that section of the walls, and also it's going to be a sort of a double skillion thing where, well, semi-gable. So the idea is that metal sheeting will go up to here, and there will be more clear polycarbonate there so that we can get more light in from the front. Water tank is there as a supply for toilet. plan is to put a toilet and wash basin in this little room at the end here. Don't think I need to have a shower in there, just a toilet and wash basin will do. The fancy part here is I actually want to have a travelling crane or travelling hoist so that I can actually lift heavy items from this end and carry them up to the other end and put them down again, and also travel across that width. Not quite sure how much that's going to cost me, but I think probably a 2-ton chain hoist would be likely all I'd ever need there. So that's that part. Now these yellow bits, I plan to use angle iron as protection for the first 1.5 meters of the pillars where they could be clobbered by a vehicle. Okay, then I've started doing the electrics design, so I have a switchboard over here, big conduit running upwards from that. I actually have the switchboard already. I've purchased that and started populating it. It's got 3 breakers in it at the moment. There's going to be 3 RCBOs and a 4-pole switch to add to it yet. The 4-pole switch is because we're going to go 3-phase in here later. I want to put another solar off-grid system on this shed. It'll be pretty much the same spec as the one I have currently on the house, except it'll be 3-phase. The reason for going 3-phase is because over here I plan to have the backup generator, diesel generator, and the one the right size that's capable of auto start comes as 3-phase. So the use of the 3 phases will be one cable, 1 phase, will feed back to the house. In the initial phases there will be a cable between here and the house which will carry power from what is currently a spare breaker in the new switchboard, and that spare breaker will feed the workshop. And then when we get the when we get the new solar off-grid system on there, that cable will be repurposed at the house end, disconnected from the switchboard and connected to the genset input of the off-grid system. So the idea is there that when the household off-grid system goes to 20% battery charge and wants to switch off power to the house, instead of doing that it will say, okay, now I'll switch in the backup input, which will come from one of the phases on this off-grid system. And then when this off-grid system, if it gets down to 20% battery charge, the controller will actually start that generator. So we won't reach the situation where we had recently where the power to the household actually gets switched off when the off-grid system goes too low. So the switchboard at the moment, the design for that will be a 4-pole switch for the 3-phase from the off-grid system, which will probably go up in this corner over here. There's a 32 amp breaker I've got in there, which will be between the first phase of the 3-phase system and the house as input to the first off-grid system. Second phase will be on a 25 amp RCBO for the later aquaponic system, so that won't be in service initially. Then the next 2 RCBOs will be for power points on the north side, and the second one for power points on the south side. So you see I've got those colour coded where the power point lime green, so that's south, south and south, and that one's lime green, so that's south, and there's actually going to be one outside here too, because there'll be pumps out here, or a pump. So that's south. Then if we go and rotate round, we get to north, 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 and north. That one there makes a note there. Single outlet with switch for cage lights. I had a spare single outlet plate with a second switch on it. So from Taiwan. So what I'll do is I'll wire that switch so it'll have lights in both these cages, so that you can turn those on independently during the daytime if needed. Similarly, if we go out the front, keep cranking. Okay, here we have double outlet plus switch. So I have an existing one also which came from Melbourne, and that light switch there will be for lights underneath this porch or around the building generally. What else can I tell you about this? Doing a great big tank. That is not necessarily the final form for the tank. Going to capture rainwater. That is just based on using panel tank technology, which is 1 metre square fiberglass panels. But depending how we go with doing other concrete work, we may just say we'll do our own concrete tank. I'm looking at probably 40,000 litre capacity or thereabouts, possibly upwards from that. The idea is that I want to use this as a water source for my aquaponics system that comes later, because the aquaponics system, based on what we get out of our house bore at the moment, would be a saltwater system. It's actually 0.24% salinity, which is noticeable. So I'll not do that. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for the plan for the shed. As you can see, it's pretty damn elaborate and fancy, and it's likely to cost me quite a bit of money. But the off-grid system that goes on top of it will cost even more. But it's an investment for a lifetime, I think. So that's the state of play with that. So now we go to the next drawing. Before I do that, I failed to explain what the other two breakers in the switchboard are. One's for fans, one for lights. Two 10 amp breakers. The fans will just be to blow air on me while I'm in there, because it's not insulated, it's not air conditioned, I will get damn hot. So one for fans and one's for the internal lights. I don't need separate switches for those, I can just use the breakers and the switchboard for those as they come in through the door at the east end. So that will be the main access door. Unlock this one perhaps from the inside. Now I was originally thinking of having a roller door on there, but I think it's probably just easier around here to modify this so that I can get a rail across there and just have a big sliding gate. So I'll draw that later. Okay, that's better. I now have a sliding door on there. Just steel track. A few rollers on it. Door framed up and covered with mesh to keep out the birds. Some brackets at the bottom down here to stop it going too far that way. So sort of an end stop. on here to stop it coming towards the viewer. Things in the way. Then another end stop at that end at the bottom, end stop at the top, maybe lower down, but we could use that for putting a lock on it. Maybe we put a bolt out from that end that went through a loop there and put a lock on it, something like that. As it stands, the gap there is big enough that this could be lifted off and on the tracks in that position, but when it's closed, have these brackets here at the top so that it can't be lifted off the tracks. So, job's dry. I probably should do it all for the back door over here too. Might just leave that as a normal swing door that swings out that way. We'll see. Well, that's it for that one. On to the others. Last Friday we had an expedition to Taiwan. Bunch of people in Ezra's truck. Now I get to sit in the front with Ezra because I'm the old guy and I'm not going to give up that position, I think. Now they took umbrellas because, hey, it rains around here sometimes, and when it's bucketing down in the back of that truck, it doesn't matter how many umbrellas you have, you're going to get wet. So I thought, well, we should be able to build some sort of simple canopy for that, which is removable. So this is something I whipped up as a design. It's probably overly elaborate, as usual, but the idea is that you have a little bit of a foot across there so it doesn't try and punch holes through the floor, come up and go across the edge and up and have a rail along there, and that rail will let you tie down to the tie down points, which actually happen to be along the outside of the truck body here. Diagonal stays so that it doesn't try to rack, and then more diagonal stays so it doesn't try to twist. Curved ends so that when we put a tarp over the top it doesn't try to punch holes through the tarp. Open up to 60 centimetres high, that gap. And I'm not quite sure how wide those gaps are, but they're, tape measure on there. That's about a 940mm gap, so that's not bad. The plan is to actually make this out of something simple. I reckon we could take that. You've seen in previous videos the concrete reinforcing steel they use, which is just basically about a 9 or 10mm wire. I reckon we could probably build this out of that. Like clamp bits in position and then weld them up. Get to practice the welding a bit on it, but might need to practice that first. But if we can weld this up, then what we can do is underneath the carport beside the rice factory, there's enough height there that we could hoist this off the back of the truck and just keep it there out of the way, and then when people needed to be transported in the truck in the back, drop that on, tie it down, throw a tarp over the top, and if we do it right we can set it up so we can roll the tarp up to that 60cm rail there, so you can have open sides on it, unless it's going to bucket down rain, in which case you roll down the tarp. What I'd like to do is see if we can source that clear vinyl material you sometimes see as awnings or in the as windows for convertibles. Be nice to have that on the front, sort of fixed in place, and maybe have it as a roll down option for the back. But that's a plan. Whether it ends up looking like that at all is anybody's guess, but that's my initial thoughts for something we could do for that. And since I'd drawn up the body of the truck, I used that for the next diagram, which is, oops, save changes to that. No. This one is the loading plan for when we get the compact track load delivered. This is all to scale, so the stuff's just going to fit in the truck, back of the truck neat. I have 4 attachments. There's a multi-function, well, a combination bucket, which is those dimensions, but a lot more complex than this, obviously. That looks like a plain bucket. That's wide enough there that if we use a bit of wood to protect that, the concrete mixer bucket will go on top in this section here. So the plan is to have the machine delivered with the combination bucket on it, detach that, laying it on top of some lifting straps, attach the forklifts or lift pallet forks, use those to hoist this thing using the lifting straps over the side of the truck, then go and do the same, lifting up the concrete mixer bucket over the side of the truck, and then drive the forks in underneath these cross pieces of wood and detach it in place there, and then go and attach the backhoe attachment and drive home with that on it. Delivery will be to Panama, because a truck that is capable of carrying all 3 of these attachments plus the backhoe plus the compact track loader itself, I think would be too big to get anywhere near Panama. But that might change in the day. It depends what Azra thinks when he sees the truck. So this is just using some of the old panels from the packaging for the solar off-grid system, and then we'll have some of the leftover bits of wood from the construction of Dadang's house. 3 pieces about 2 metres long and probably 5, 1.6 metres long to go across the width of the truck. Plus there's lots and lots of other pieces from some of the packaging. So that will all be put in the back of the truck before we drive off to Panama. So that's my plan for that. What else is on the go? The other thing that came up was talking with Jabota about when they go to Panama without taking the truck, they just go on scooter, bringing stuff back from the Indo-Mart is a bit of a pain. I thought, oh, okay, well, because they'll have 2 people at least on a scooter and want to bring back boxes of water and boxes of groceries, and it all just gets too much. So I said, well, why don't we have a trailer that we can just tow behind a scooter and put it all in that, so it's not so hard to get people on the scooter. Obviously I haven't finished working on the wheels yet, but I don't think this would be too hard to make either. So that's what I do with SketchUp Make. I just sit there and draw diagrams occasionally. But that's all I can do while I'm waiting for word on when my compact track loader will be delivered, apart from when I receive more parts for my new electrical switchboard. Once I've received all the parts for that, I'll start putting in the internal wires. I did actually whip off a diagram for that, but it's pretty damned ugly. I didn't put it in SketchUp, I just did it in paint. And freehand in paint is not good. But yeah, so sorry about disappointing any people who were expecting to see delivery of the compact track loader, but not happening yet, damn it. But that's where we're at.